Welcome again. My name is Aissa Wise. We have Stephie Novak here. She's also going to be presenting here in a little bit. We also have Deb Fassnacht, who's going to be presenting right after me. She's our executive director. Stephie is our stream team assistant, but also stream team coordinator. We have Brooke here in the Zoom world. We also have a couple friends in the room with us. We have board member Joe Glassy, scientific advisor David Cole, and past communications coordinator and volunteer Cassie. All right, so first of all, I want to recognize, or Watershed Education Network wants to recognize that we are on the sacred ground of the Bitterroot, Salish, Upper Pend Oreille, and Kootenai Native American people. Today and every day, we honor the past they have always shown us in caring for the environment for generations to come. That land acknowledgement is adapted and provided by the Salish Kootsy Cultural Community Committee for the University of Montana. Our mission, Watershed Education Network's mission, is to foster knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of watershed health through citizen science, youth, and school engagement and outreach to our communities in order to ensure healthy watersheds for our next generations. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Deb. She's going to give a quick kind of brief history of Watershed Education Network and how citizen science got started, and then I will take over after that.
Well, thanks everybody. Sorry for the little delay in this little bit of technology. We're glad everybody's here, and I thought it'd be really wonderful to thank the stream team folks, everybody who's been out in the field, and recognize that this is definitely a network. And when we think of our name, Watershed Education Network, the biggest part of that name is network, because it takes all of us, and it's been years in the making. I thought I'd frame our history with the word evolution, because it's been an evolution since we started with our Montana Water course and the folks at Volunteer Water Monitoring Project out of Bozeman, Montana. What began as an all-volunteer project has evolved into a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're so fortunate to be able to keep evolving from one stage to the next. Once we had our training from the Volunteer Water Monitoring Project, we moved into school monitoring with our students all over the Western Montana valleys. So that just took our students from this reading about watersheds, reading about rivers, and an active field trip, knee deep in their rivers and creeks, pulling on waders, looking at macroinvertebrates. And as we were growing their database, we knew we wanted a little bit clearer, cleaner data, and we had new volunteers that wanted to offer their time, which evolved into our second level of stream team. So about 2004, the year we became a 501c3, we moved into stream team weekend monitoring. And that small step led us into future monitoring for Lolo Creek Watershed Group in 2017, where we were part of a DEQ project to monitor the sediment. Following that, we began to look at Rattlesnake Creek as an easy, accessible creek to have people pay attention. And when we think about Rattlesnake Creek from our standpoint, right there in our office, close to Rattlesnake Creek, and we wander by along the creek side as it flows into the Clark Fork River, we started to wonder what there was to learn about the creek that began in wilderness, came through a suburban area and into our city. And that word wonder still activates our next steps. What do we wonder is going to happen to the creek in the next 20 to 50 years? And that's this stream team's work ahead of us. So we've taken our work into this level 1 and level 2 with Stephie and Aissa, and it's just been an amazing expansion in rigor and consistent data with the help of many people. Some are in this room. We're so grateful. So Stream Team continues its evolution, and we invite everyone to become part of it. Thanks. So we'd like to warmly invite you to some of our upcoming events that you see on the screen. And the first and foremost is Missoula Gives, May 4th and 5th. And today you can vote for our video. by going to Missoula Gives and place your vote for our Watershed Education Network video produced by Brooke. We also have the Sunday River Fest with our West Slope Chapter Trout Unlimited partners. That's on May 22nd, a Sunday. We have ongoing groundwater monitoring that you can check in with Stephie about. Our school programs are really ramping up and we are seeking volunteers for those between now and June. We have our new Family Science Project, a pilot that allows families to take active kits home or kits that create activities for families and youth. So watch for that this summer. We also have our Windermere Sup Cup. That is in July, where we encourage everybody who's ready to get on the stand-up paddleboard and join our team July 17th, a Sunday. We're recruiting high school students for backcountry stream corps for this summer, and we have our stream team trainings forthcoming. So we welcome everyone to join us. Reach out to Stephie, Aissa, or myself, or go to our website. And I think that's my portion. Back to you.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Nice.
All right, so I'm going to get into more of our WEN citizen science, where we are today, some of our helpers here, and kind of how we got to where we are today. And then I'll hand it off to Stephie, and she'll get into more of the nitty gritty of the data that we collected, what we've learned so far, and what we hope to learn moving forward. So first and foremost, we've got a couple people that we just want to do a shout out and say thank you. And you know, this program wouldn't be possible without these folks. Christine Brissette from Trout Unlimited, not supposed to say partner. She's a Trout Unlimited project manager here in Missoula, and she was really instrumental in getting us going to for just our protocols and our methods, and helping us figure out what parameters we wanted to use for our stream team once we got this project with Rattlesnake Creek dam removal. Chris Jadala, he is a citizen science colleague and a good friend of WEN. He lives in Davis, California. He's a PhD candidate and an NSF graduate research fellow at the University of California, Davis. And I'll talk a little bit more about him and a citizen science manual that they wrote along with his partners, Ryan and Heidi, were also really instrumental to help us with our citizen science. David Cole, he's in the room here. He's our scientific advisor. He's a retired US Forest Service scientist. We definitely wouldn't have been here without him and the data that we collected. We're really thankful for him. Joe Glassy, the rest of our board, has been so supportive, and we're really glad to have them on our side and making this possible as well. So WEN citizen science today. So Deb mentioned that we started a couple years ago with kind of just a regular citizen science team, just called Stream Team. Citizen science wasn't really even in the name yet. It wasn't even quite a popular thing as you see now. But in 2018, Trout Unlimited in the city of Missoula was really ramping up with their plans to get the dam removed on Rattlesnake Creek. And WEN was already in Rattlesnake Creek, kind of with what we call today our level 1 stream team, which is kind of a educational introduction to stream monitoring for community members and neighbors and folks around the area. And so since we were already in the creek, TU, Trout Unlimited, Rob Roberts and Christine Brissette talked to us and invited us to talk more with Resource Legacy Fund, they were helping with the funding, and they invited us to kind of collaborate with them and partner up with Trout Unlimited to help with the monitoring of this rattlesnake dam removal. So we got asked to help with the before, during, and after dam removal data collection. And so working with TU and our relationship with TU before this led to the support from the Open Rivers Fund which is a program of Resource Legacy Fund, RLF, supported by the William Flora Hewlett Foundation. And so they've made this entirely possible due to the funding, and have made everything possible in terms of getting out there, the gear and equipment that we have, my job, Stephie's job. We wouldn't be here without their support, and TU kind of getting that ball rolling for us. And because of this and our partnership with UC Davis, which I'll talk about a little bit more, we've really been able to grow our stream team in a big way, and it's just continuing to grow. So now I'm going to kind of get into our Rattlesnake Creek monitoring development. So after we teamed up with Trout Unlimited, and we figured out which parameters that we needed to supplement Trout Unlimited with this dam removal. So there was a couple things that we considered when we were deciding which parameters we wanted our citizen scientists to monitor. So some of those considerations were feasibility, volunteer commitment, time commitment, gear equipment available to us, and the ability to provide meaningful and replicable data to our partners and others. And on the PowerPoint, it looks pretty simple up there, just a few things. But between me and David Cole and Christine Brissette and Stephie and Joe Glassy and a number of other folks, we spent hours figuring out these things. What would work for our team? How are we going to collect this data? Is it doable for volunteers? Is it doable for us? And so it took a lot of work collaborating and networking with a lot of folks. So once we figured out which parameters we could collect as a citizen science team and supplement that data to Trout Unlimited and other folks, we got down into the protocol development. So the protocols is the recipes for stream monitoring, how to collect this data step by step. And once again, it kind of sounds like it could be, just find the recipe to how to do it and boom, you got it. Once again, the team spent many hours figuring out the best possible way to collect this data. And so we used, between me and David and Stephie and Christine Brissette and lots of other folks, we spent many hours researching Forest Service and DEQ and other state agencies, methodologies and protocols throughout the West that was related to dam removal. And we talked to lots of folks. David Cole, for example, he had a lot of folks in his world that really helped us kind of fast track some of these protocols. So we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We wanted to use protocols that were already written, that were good, and we needed them to work for our team in a way. We needed to be able to send folks out and still collect this information on the creek, and it makes sense and it be doable and feasible for these volunteers. So after about a year, 2019 was the building year. So we were working really hard on building these protocols and going back and forth to the whiteboard. Once we started going through these protocols and these different methodologies, we kind of realized that we needed to morph this program into maybe 2 different levels. So today we call it our level 1 and our level 2 stream team. Level 1 is basically what WEN started out as. So we had the regular stream team, and that's what I mentioned earlier as an educational kind of introductory stream monitoring team. So we started making these protocols that are a little bit tougher. And we realized we needed to have a next level. So we morphed into a stream team level 2. And so with level 2, those protocols are a little bit more intense. They are project-based. So that's where the Rattlesnake Creek Dam Removal Project, this is what kind of morphed into this, was it's project-based. So level 2, a lot of the data that we collected for the Rattlesnake Creek Dam Removal was with our level 2 team. And it also follows specific schedules. For example, riparian vegetation needs to be done at a certain time of year when the foliage is going. So level 1 continues to monitor and collect important information on Rattlesnake Creek However, it takes more of an educational introductory approach. And folks that join us for level 1 start to really get into it and have a good time and really start to learn and get comfortable in the creek and walking in the creek. And, you know, we hope that they continue on and help us out with level 2. So just real quick, I know there's a lot on this page here, but I'll just go through it real quick. So this is just the monitoring program, or the Rattlesnake Creek dam removal monitoring itself. So a lot of this, all of this comes from a report that Watershed Education Network, Stephie and I and David Cole worked with Christine Brissett from Trout Unlimited and Lad Notak from Fish, Wildlife and Parks. We wrote a report I guess just a couple months ago, and we submitted it in February. And we actually have it with us here today. If anybody wanted to take a look at it, we have a printed copy. We also have it available if you guys are interested. You guys can send us an email and we can send you this report. But in this report, it basically, the beginning is what I have here on the PowerPoint, and it's our monitoring goals and questions and kind of the program goals. And some of those goals are not just our goals as Watershed Education Network Citizen Science Program, but it's the overarching goals from Trout Unlimited and FWP and the folks that were all involved in this dam removal. So the main goals were to understand the impact of dam removal on natural resources and stream processes through collaboration with agencies and academic partners. And then the big one where we come in is to engage the public through citizen science and outreach. Some of the monitoring goals and questions that we developed with the partners based on several overarching factors. Dam removal impacts will likely occur across a range of spatial scales, so not just at the dam itself, but above, below. The monitoring plan aims to document changes across the range of these scales. Goal 1 focuses on impacts at immediately below the dam site, and Goal 2 aims to document broader ecosystem trends and patterns. So Watershed Education Network Citizen Science program mainly focused on goal number 2 on a broader ecosystem impact, but we did do some stuff that focused a little bit immediately below and above the dam site, and Stephie will talk about that. Some key points to keep in mind, and what we've kept in mind during this whole monitoring program or monitoring project on the Rattlesnake Creek, TU and WEN and others, WEN being us, recognizes that we will likely not be able to document watershed scale responses to this dam removal. To do so, we would require a much more intensive and expensive research effort over a long period of time. Collecting baseline data, which we've been doing, however, helps us understand the context and the relative influence of dam removal on an ecosystem. And that's something that we can share with others as well who are practicing the same type of project. Some impacts may be evident in the year following removal and restoration, while others may not be clear for decades. By engaging community members throughout the WEN Citizen Science Program, we can build a network of informed riparian and water users. We are empowering our community members. So like I said, this presentation is based on the report that we wrote with Trout Unlimited. And it's been 1 year post dam removal, and this represents a summary of results to date and presents opportunities for more long-term monitoring. This is just these are 2 pictures of 2 manuals here, or one is a report and one is a manual. So on the left screen here, you have the Rattlesnake Creek Dam Removal Monitoring 2021 report. And that's the report I'm referring to that we wrote with Trout Unlimited, Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, with support from Resource Legacy Fund down at the bottom. And so that is our 1 year post dam removal report that we've been talking about and what we really put together the last couple months. And so this presentation is just a brief overview of some of the stuff that Watershed Education Network worked on. There's a lot more in-depth information in this report that TU looked at, a lot of fish habitat stuff that Fish, Wildlife and Parks looked at. So if you want the full idea of what's really going on with Rattlesnake Creek 1 year post dam removal, I encourage you to check out this report, and we can get that to you. On the right side, there's the manual that UC Davis Community, or the Center for Community and Citizen Science wrote. So that's Chris Jadala that I mentioned earlier. He's on there, developed by Ryan Meyer, Heidi Ballard, and Chris Jadala. They're our awesome partners from UC Davis. And so they wrote this manual over the last couple years called Planning Your Community-Based Citizen Science Monitoring Project for Dam Removal and Watershed Restoration. So their focus is on citizen science and related to dam removal. And so they're partners with Resource Legacy Fund. Resource Legacy Fund led them our direction because we were leading the citizen science in the Rattlesnake Creek dam removal. And so they partnered up with us and they kind of used WEN, well, they did use WEN as a pilot program or as an example of what works and what doesn't work with citizen science during a dam removal. So this manual is on their Community of Citizen Science website. We also have access to it as well. It's an awesome manual. We're in there a couple times with pictures and some quotes and that sort of thing. And so they're hoping to, this just came out a couple months ago, the final manual. And so they're hoping to share this with other watershed groups that are going to be doing monitoring on dam removal projects using citizen science. And so it's a great manual on how to do citizen science with the dam removal. Okay, so I'm going to hand it off to Stephie. She is kind of our data whiz and she is really good at this next kind of stuff. And so I'm going to hand it off to her and she's going to go into kind of what we looked at, what we collected, what we have learned, and what we, maybe hope to learn in the next couple of years.
All right, fantastic. So like Aissa was saying, I'm going to walk you through a bit about what sort of parameters we were gathering in the Rattlesnake and kind of what the data that we found looks like. So like Aissa said, we have two levels of stream monitoring, level 1 and level 2. They're relatively similar in kind of what they collect. There's a few things that are different between them though. So level 1 has a very broad overview of the creek. So we have sites all the way from the mouth of the creek all the way up past that dam removal site. And we do, there's a couple things that we collect, especially on level 1. And that includes a lot of our chemistry. So we do air temperatures, water temperatures, pH and dissolved oxygen. And we also take velocity measurements as well. On level 2 is a lot more of the project-based, more in-depth protocols at very specific points. And so some of those special ones that we do just for level 2 is some of our vegetation surveys, longitudinal profiles, and we do large body debris surveys from the mouth all the way up to the dam, and then some in the upper Rattlesnake as well. And both of the levels have cross sections that we do, pebble counts, and collect macroinvertebrates. So the cross sections and pebble counts are relatively similar, but the macroinvertebrates are where we have a real kind of difference between the two levels. So this is a map of where our lower sites are in the Rattlesnake. So if you look there, you'll be able to see kind of a bluish view. We have 10 sites going up the creek. Starting, the very first one is right at the confluence of the Rattlesnake and the Clark Fork. Thanks, Aissa. And then working our way up the creek, you'll be able to see all the way up to the dam removal site, right between sites 8 and 9. So that means we have 8 sites below that restoration area and then 2 sites up above. If you've been following along, site 10 is actually where we just saw a new beaver dam, which was very exciting. We've seen signs of beaver down below, but it was great to see one establish itself right at one of our monitoring sites. And this is on the lower left, it's just a view of what the Rattlesnake watershed looks like. So you see the creek, the Rattlesnake Creek there in blue, and then that yellow line is marking the Rattlesnake recreation area. So this is a really special creek because it goes, of course, through the city down below here, but it goes through several parks and residential areas before going into the recreation area and then the wilderness up above that. And so it has its headwaters in some really clean, beautiful country, and then just flows straight down into the Clark Fork. And so this is what our level 2 sites look like. So while level 1 is kind of scattered across the Rattlesnake watershed there, our level 2 is focused very closely to the dam itself. So you have our downstream sites on that lower map, and our upstream sites at the upper map. And we have the various different points along there are different protocols that we're sampling. So level 1, we sample everything at each of our sites. So every site has cross sections, pebble counts, macroinvertebrates, chemistry, all of it. But our level 2 sites have very specific protocols. So if you go to one site, it might be our vegetation site. A different site is where we collect macroinvertebrates, and a different site is where we do our cross sections. Yeah, so this is what we saw, just basic summary of our level 1. If you've been coming to some of our celebrations throughout the years, you might recognize a couple of these stats, but a lot of these are combined throughout the years. So all of these are from the years 2019 to 2021, which is when our big focus toward this dam removal project has been. Throughout those 3 years, we've had a total of 98 volunteers with over 1,000 hours of volunteering between them. And based on the current rate for volunteer time, that actually is about $29,000 worth of volunteer time that you folks have been giving to us. We greatly appreciate it. We've seen a huge growth from 2019 to this past year, which is quite surprising. We've had 27 volunteers in our first year with this project, and now we're up to 46 last year. And that's even counting when COVID hit, everything kind of took a little bit of a dive, but then it came right back up and came back even better than before. And we have a really hardy group of volunteers. So normally folks won't want to come out when it's like super nasty out, but all of our volunteers are great about it. You guys have come out in temperatures as low as freezing, 32 degrees, and as high as 80 degrees in 2020. And you'll see here on the bottom, there's a graph of what the water temperatures are like that we've been collecting. So we've been out in these water temperatures. The lowest temp was 32 degrees, so freezing air and freezing water at the same time. And our highest temperature was 59 degrees in the water. If you look on the blue one on the bottom, it might be a little difficult to see, but that's the range of water temperatures that trout really prefer. And so you'll see that the water temperatures that we've been seeing really line up with what trout are looking for. This is a little bit skewed because we do go out just in the fall. So just that last week of like August, all the way up till the snow flies. And of course, trout are there almost year round. But we see this nice range of water temperatures, but very great habitat for our trout. And so over these years, we've done a lot of collecting. So these are some of the stats that you might have kind of seen before, but much smaller. There's over 8,000 macroinvertebrates collected, over 3,500 pebbles, and over 3,000 feet of cross sections that have been measured by volunteers. And this is for our level 2. So level 2 has less volunteers because we train them a lot more, and we kind of cherry pick a lot of our volunteers that have a lot of prior background knowledge. We've had 29 fantastic volunteers with over 320 hours of volunteer work. And they have put in over 4,700 feet of longitudinal profiles, 700 feet of cross sections, and over 7,000 bugs were collected by level 2 and then sent off for professional analysis by Rithron. And if you look on the right here, this is what our vegetation surveys look like. So if you haven't had the great chance to join us on vegetation surveys, we set up a nice transect going through the woods, and we measure trees, shrubs, and ground cover. And so over 300 trees were counted in situations very similar to that site on the right. Over 1,000 feet of ground cover was ID'd, and over 22,000 feet of shrub cover was ID'd. So we're going to get into a couple of the specific protocols and a bit of what we saw on kind of both levels. So sediment size, so pebble counts are done mostly by level 1, but they're very similar for level 2. This is when we're taking rocks out of the stream and then we're measuring diameters using this handy dandy gravelometer that is being demonstrated in the picture here. And it's letting us see kind of how the stream bed changes throughout high flows year after year. And we base our methods based on the Woolman pebble count. It's the same method that if you're working for the Forest Service, DEQ, or anybody else, everybody uses this exact same method, just with slight tweaks depending on who you're going out with. And it allows us to really get a good idea of what the stream character looks like. It's super important for fish habitat and the habitat for macroinvertebrates. And because you need a very wide range of those pebbles for the different types of aquatic life in the stream. So these might look like kind of scary graphs just to start off with, but I'm going to walk you through what we saw. So these are from our sites, our level 1 sites, both above and below the dam site. You see the top two are from before the dam removal in 2018 and 2019. We were lucky because before WEN started with the dam removal, we were actually already in the Rattlesnake for a little bit. So we had some of our data from the Rattlesnake, and we were able to keep going through this dam removal project. And so we had a nice 2 years of before data like that. And then our lowest section are below, like after the dam removal. So in years 2020 and 2021. And so what these graphs are showing is, these are called percent finer graphs. So I'm going to point for the folks in the room, and Aissa will point for on the Zoom here. What this is looking like is when we measure our rocks, we measure them in these very specific size categories. So this is how wide each individual rock is. And so if you look here, we have percent finer here. And so if you're going across here, and so we look like right here, this means that about 30% of the rocks were less than 90 millimeters wide. And so the real big picture here, though, is that really they look very similar. Like all four of these graphs, you'll see a little bit of a hiccup going on in the below dam site in that upper right-hand graph, but for the most part, everything looks very close together, very similar. They're following the same sorts of patterns. And so what this is showing us is that we really didn't see large changes in the stream bed over time. So when that dam was removed in before this 2020 survey, we didn't see any changes in these particle sizes. So if we did see something bad happening with the dam, if it washed a whole bunch of different rocks down the stream or a whole bunch of fine sediment, we would have seen a large bump here. But because we didn't see that, we know they did an awesome job taking out the dam, and that there were no really harmful long effects of the dam removal on kind of the sediment here. So on our vegetation surveys for level 2, these were very exciting. We were able to do, we were setting up these little quadrats, which are those white sampling squares there. And so that's a square meter, and we were looking at what sort of plants were in that square meter. And we were looking at ground cover in those plots, as well as shrub cover around our site and tree cover on our site. And it was looking a lot about the effects of recreation pressure and kind of watching the spread of invasives and noxious weeds, kind of long-term changes on that riparian habitat. Because plants change very slowly for the most part, unless there's a massive flood event that takes everything out, a lot of this is really baseline data. So if we go back in 5, 10, 15 years, we have something great to compare it to of a little bit before and a little bit after that dam removal. And so we have 4 sites above the dam and 4 sites below that restoration site. And we looked at this sort of ground cover, shrubs and trees at each of those sites. And so this is kind of what we were seeing. You'll see that they look, again, very similar, which is really what we're hoping. You'll see that through a lot of this data is that there's not large changes. And that's really something we were hoping for going into this project. When you take out a dam, the idea is that you don't have large negative effects. You want the dam to go out and it to either improve things or make no changes at all. And so the dam and the Rattlesnake, we were really looking at fish movement, but we are now looking at fish movement with WEN here. That was Fish, Wildlife and Parks. And so our whole idea was that we didn't want to see many changes above or below. And so that's kind of what this is showing as well. You'll see in that lower right-hand corner, that graph is showing the amount of trees. This is trees per hectare. If you're not familiar with that, that's in 10,000 square meters or 100,000 square meters. It's like 2.3 acres per hectare. That really doesn't help at all, but the whole idea is there were a bit more trees above the dam site versus below, which makes sense as you have below the dam site, there was a lot more work done in previous years on the channel. It's a lot straighter, a lot less complex. And so we saw a few less trees down below there, but again, as you move kind of uphill, you'd expect these sort of things to happen anyways. And on our upper graph here in the upper left, you'll see what our ground cover looked like. So that was those white sampling squares we were looking at earlier. And this is showing the amount of vegetation cover, litter cover, such as like leaves or pine needles or anything like that, and the percent of bare soil. So if you were in a very like high recreation area, you'd see a lot more bare soil, a lot more litter, because people are disturbing that a lot more. We see these nice high amounts of vegetation cover when that stream is relatively undisturbed and it's got kind of the piece it needs to keep growing as it should. So our large body debris surveys are something that I'm really excited about. We've been doing large body debris for the last 2 years in the lower reaches. And this is also what we did with our high schoolers this last summer and this upcoming summer with our backcountry stream corps. So for large woody debris surveys, it's really looking at exactly what it sounds like, large woody debris. And so we're looking at large logs that are in the stream. And those logs would be providing habitat for like fish or macroinvertebrates. And they're adding a lot of complexity to the stream itself. And so if you look on this bottom picture here, at the restoration site where they took out the dam, they actually lined the stream banks with these trees, with this large woody debris, and with various saplings, because it's such a vital part of the habitat. They protect the banks, and it just helps the stream to kind of keep its natural course. And so if you find lots of large woody debris in the creek, whenever water hits it, it's digging holes into the soil, it's digging into the banks, and just making it a lot better habitat. And so this is what we saw when we were out there looking at large woody debris. So this was a great partnership with TU. We were working very closely with them on this project to both build our protocols and everything, but also doing the actual monitoring itself. So for a lot of the work in the report, we had our chunk, TU had their chunk, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks had their chunk. But for large woody debris, we actually kind of piggybacked off each other. So if you look at this graph on the bottom here, you see these first 14 reaches are WEN'S downstream of the dam spots. But those upper 14, we did half of them with our backcountry high schoolers, and then TU did the other half with their crew. And so the great thing is that we were able to match the protocols that TU was following, and we all followed the exact same things when out in the field. And so that might not sound like too much of a special thing, but that's actually really important for our citizen science. That's showing us that the professional protocols, the level 2 stream team, and our high school group can all follow the same methods and get the same results. And we can put them onto a graph like this, and it means the exact same thing no matter where you're looking on this chart. So if you can see the colors on here, you'll see that there's green bars and blue bars. So the green is looking at, well, it might be brownish. Brown.
Wood color.
This beautiful color here, that's looking at the wood itself. So every time you see one of these brown bars, that's how much wood per kilometer. So this is in density. So if we were looking here at reach 4, we had about 15 pieces of wood for every kilometer we walked. And when you look here, you see those letter B's and those little stars there. And so those are areas of really high beavers. So some of these spots, we try our best to get into every little side channel and get as much of the wood counted as we can. But if you've seen beaver habitat before, they make a mess of everything. And it kind of floods the floodplain everywhere. And so a lot of these, we were able to kind of skip some sections. So when you see those B's there, that actually means there was much higher amounts of wood there. We just weren't able to get every little stick in those areas. And so that upper right-hand graph, that's showing the amount of pools that we were seeing, depending on like what sort of feature we saw. So when I say we were looking at large woody debris, not all large woody debris is built the same. We have small logs, which are about 10 centimeters, medium logs, and then large logs, which are 50 centimeters. And so we have our log jams, which had at least 10 large pieces in them, large logs with root wads, so the roots still attached, large without root wads, which was just one large piece of wood, and then the root wad, so if you just saw a chunk of root itself. And so each of these guys forms pools at different rates. And so that's what that graph is looking at. It's showing that if you found a jam, you would have a pool 70% of the time. And so this is really important because we have GPS coordinates of every log jam that we saw. And so if we wanted to see how much fish habitat was out there, that's what we'd be looking at, because fish need those pools that are building either in front of or behind those jams or other large pieces of wood. And so you can see there's really not that much difference between the upstream and the downstream reaches. There would be above and below the dam, but it's relatively the same across the board, except for the different types of features and how they interact with the wood. But the really interesting part isn't actually the graphs here. It's what you can kind of see in these stats here in the upper left. So those all boil down to the fact that in those upper reaches that are more undisturbed or less undisturbed, we saw higher densities of wood, we saw more pools, and we saw deeper pools. So if you've seen the lower reaches of the Rattlesnake, it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's relatively straight. It's relatively the same throughout it. But once you get into those upper reaches, you see a lot more twists and turns. It's a lot more bends, a lot more random pools and side streams and various, just different complexity in the stream. And so you can see that in those undisturbed areas, you have a lot more wood and a lot better habitat there. All right, so our aquatic macroinvertebrates. So our bugs are really special because we do them on both level 1 and level 2, but we have different protocols for each of those levels. So if you're familiar with collecting our aquatic macroinvertebrates, you've probably seen or done what this lower left picture is showing. So we collect our bugs in the stream, we take them out and put them into these white tubs here, and then we sort them out into ice cube trays depending on what taxa they're in. So mayflies had their own little square, stoneflies had their own little square, caddisflies, and etc. And then we do a little tally on how many are in each taxa. But if you've been on our level 2, you would be doing what's in that right-hand photo. And so for our level 1, we just sample kind of whatever we think those macroinvertebrates are going to be, because we sample at least 300 at the site. But on level 2, it's very specific times and very specific locations. And it's only sampling within that square net. So that's called a surface sampler. And it samples 1 square foot of the stream bed at a time. And we sample it, we disturb the rocks for about 60 seconds. Well, not even about, it's literally 60 seconds of sampling. And then you scoop it up, take it back to the bank, and we put it into these sampling jars and then send them off to Rithron. Rithron is a local company, a local organization that professionally IDs these macroinvertebrates. And if you've met Cassie, our previous communications coordinator, she's currently working for Rithron, as well as several of the other folks that are associated with WEN. We just have a great partnership with them, both sending our data and sending information back and forth, as well as fantastic staff and volunteers. And so they take our samples and then ID them down to species. So that's something that we've thought a little bit about doing with our just regular volunteers. And it might sound relatively straightforward just when you first think about it. You think, oh wait, there can't be that many mayflies in the state of Montana. There's no way that there's over, what is it, Cassie? It's over, I saw over 130 different species of mayflies alone. Yeah, and then we sample, I think it's about 30 to 40 different taxa. And so suddenly, instead of needing to ID 30 or 40 different taxa, needing 130 different mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies gets to be a little bit more of an endeavor. And so we leave that to Rithron as a nice professional relationship there. and they are just really important in general. Macroinvertebrates are what we call bioindicators. So they're a really great key to what the water looks like how healthy is the water. So we mentioned mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies quite a bit. And that's because there are big three very pollution intolerant species. So when you have really clean water, you see mayflies. If you see really muddy, very kind of polluted, very kind of nasty looking water, you see things more like snails and various worms and other sorts of macroinvertebrates like that. And so this is a bit about what we were seeing on our level 2 sampling. So for this was a great partnership working with the university as well. So we were collecting the macroinvertebrates when Rithron took them and ID'd them and sent us a couple of the statistics back. And then Sam Turner is a student over at the university, and he took them and built us these beautiful graphs for looking at what we actually saw. Because when we get data back, it comes in very long strings of numbers. And so these charts make it a lot easier for us to see kind of what's going on. So we kind of cherry picked our favorites out of Sam's wonderful work. And if you see on these graphs on the right here, so that first one in the middle is showing the taxa richness. So richness is just a fancy term for how many taxa did we see at that site. So like mayflies is one taxa, stoneflies, caddisflies, and so on and so forth. And you keep going through, and you can see that this, it definitely had a change between those three sites. So with the opportunity to sample both below the dam site, at the restoration site, and above the restoration site, which is that US. And so you'll see that the downstream site and the upstream site are relatively the same in richness. There are about 45 taxa seen at that site. But when you get to the restoration site, it drops way down. That's not actually something that we're very worried about for like the richness. And the same for the scrapers and shredders. It's just slightly different reasoning. So on the scraper and shredders, the different macroinvertebrates feed in different ways. And scrapers and shredders are mostly focused on the leaf litter and like algae on the rocks. And so we see a much higher amount of those in that restoration site compared to the rest of the stream. And you can kind of explain that because when they took out the dam, that site was bare soil. There was literally no macroinvertebrates at that site. So everything we collected at the restoration site moved in the year since they removed the dam. And so that shows you why that richness went way down. Of course, if there was nothing there before, and now they're just freshly colonizing, it's gonna go way down. You're not gonna have as many species if they're just moving in. And the scrapers and shredders, you're gonna have a lot more of them because you have a lot more of that leaf litter, a lot more of that algae because of kind of the structure of the vegetation on the banks. We had a lot more litter entering the water, a lot more sunlight for the algae to be growing in. And we kind of expect this to kind of go back together over time. The restoration site, of course, is still restoring itself. There's only so much that we can do restoring a site. And so over time, nature's going to take its course and everything's going to hopefully shift back into normal. And this was a really interesting one on the left here. Different species are tolerant to sediment in different amounts. So macroinvertebrates breathe through like little gills. And so when you have really cloudy water, it makes it very difficult for them to be getting their oxygen. And so you can see here that we have from the downstream sites and the upstream sites across those years between before and after the dam removal. And they're relatively the same before and after, but there's an increase in 2020 in the downstream sites. So that guy is right after they removed the dam. We saw what looks like is a large increase in how many sediment tolerant species there were. So when you're thinking this through, what that would normally show you is that, oh, there must have been a large flush of sediment. We had cloudy water, the dam let in through a lot of sediment. But wait a second, we didn't see that in the pebble counts, but we did see that in the macroinvertebrates. But then you have to look at one very important thing about graphs like this. You can tweak them to make them say just about whatever you'd like them to. And so while this one looks super great, but it looks super scary, you gotta look at that scale on the left. That huge increase, those error bars showing a huge increase, is a matter of maybe 2%. And in the grand scheme of things, that's really not that big of a deal. So we did see a slight increase, and it is, you know, it looks a little bit bad, but it's actually nothing kind of in the long run. And it's something that we're really expecting to also kind of go back to normal as these species kind of move along. So this was a really cool project that we were able to work on. When we first started working on this restoration project, we were only planning on doing macroinvertebrates above and below the dam site, but we had a great chance to actually work on the restoration site after they took the dam out. And so we took a large group of our volunteers out and we measured both our level 1 macroinvertebrates using our just regular old D nets, sampling just the random spots in the stream, and our level 2 nice professional sampling, sent them off to Erythron, had them professionally ID'd. And we were able to kind of compare what we saw between those two groups. So our level 1 bugs, we treated exactly like we do every other site, collected 300 bugs. And we actually, for this one event, we had so many volunteers come out and join us, we actually had 4 little groups set up. So each group had their own tub of bugs. And then when we brought those data sheets back to the office, they all got combined into one big sample of 300. And for our level 2, it was just like our other sites, both above and below. And all of them were combined into the sampling jars and sent to Erythron, who ID'd them for us. And then when we were analyzing them back at the office, Aissa, we were comparing the percent of the total sample that each bug made up. So if we look here, for example, on that graph on the lower right, and you see mayflies at 78% on the first bar there, that means 78% of that sample was mayflies. That's pretty normal for what we've been seeing in the field. It's interesting to see that the numbers line up with what we think we're seeing. So normally we'd see a bunch of mayflies, but it doesn't really mean much. Then you take it back to the office and it's like, wow, almost 80% of this sample was mayflies. And so we were able to compare that for our big 3 species, big 3 taxa, and then the other. And so that's what that lower right graph is looking at. It's looking at those species and showing across the 4 groups of level 1 what we saw. And so each of those groups sampled the exact same way, collected the exact same way, ID'd the exact same way. But then when we brought them back and we looked at them, they weren't the same results. Just keep that in mind because we're going to look at that graph up above, which compared the same analyzing method as that for the one with the groups, but it was looking at the difference between our total level 1 sample and our level 2 sample. And so we still see differences, but they weren't quite as large as between our 4 groups. So we did the math and we averaged things out. And you see how the mayflies in the upper right graph, 73% of the sample for level 1 was mayflies. But when we sent them to Erythron, only about half of their sample was mayflies. It was like, okay, let's try and figure out why that happened. So we did that for each of the different taxa that we saw, which was about 30 different taxa. And then we averaged them out. And while there's a larger difference between the mayflies for level 1 and level 2, across the board, it was only about a 3% difference. So if you took Erythron sample or level 2 sample and our level 1 sample, they were only about 3% different from each other. But when you look down at our 4 groups, that difference was almost 6%. So all of our level 1 samples were about 6% different from each other. And so what that's really showing us is something really exciting. It's showing us that the differences in our level 1 and level 2 probably wasn't because of our methods, but it was because of the different locations that we sampled at. So when we saw those 4 groups, they were sampling all within about 50 feet of each other. Level 2 had to sample a little bit further upstream, so we weren't having anything floating downstream into the nets. And they were about 100 feet away from us. And so it's all sampling the same site, but you can see that that's really what made the difference, is those sites. So our different locations made the difference, but our different protocols didn't. And so this is showing us that when we're going out with our level 2 or level 1 data collection, even though they're different qualities, they're different groups, different methods, we're getting the same results kind of across the board. And so this is showing us that even just our regular citizen science, our level 1 that's been going out for years, is doing just as good of work as our level 2 with our really good protocols, our increased reliability. And so we're able to take out that data from our past experience a lot more seriously, because we can see that it is really good compared to what we've been working on in the present here. And so, yeah, you can see a little bit of those, just the differences between the taxa there. Just kind of an interesting thing to see. We have a lot more differences in like the mayflies versus the stoneflies, and a lot more like mayflies than anything else. And so this is one of those neat things to see just kind of on paper here, instead of when you're out in the field and you see a tub full of mayflies. It's also in the math here, and we do see that just at all of these sites. And so just kind of a wrap up here of what we kind of learned with Stream Team. Across these years, we've been seeing that all of our data really makes a difference. And so no matter what level we're doing our data at, doing our collections at, it's all going to make a difference, and it's all a very valuable contribution to our organization. And so this is really great news kind of moving into the future, because we know that if we want to make very specific protocols to look at specific projects like the dam removal, we can 100% go and do those. But if we want to keep doing our level 1 and do that across different watersheds or in different locations, we're going to get really great quality data no matter really where we're at. And this second point is something that a lot of people were very worried about, but I hope that you saw with some of the data that we collected, we didn't see any harmful effects of this dam removal, which is something we were really hoping to see, that there wasn't harmful effects. If something had really happened badly, we would have really seen it. And luckily we didn't see it. A lot of our partners didn't really see it. And so this was some great news just kind of for this project. And it also showing us that a lot of our report work and everything like that is showing us that our partners can also take our data and use it in a really reliable, meaningful way. So they can say that, yeah, this data was collected by WEN's stream team and it makes sense. They did great work. We can use this as reliable results going into the future. And we also had, seeing our volunteer growth over these years, it showed us how important our volunteer engagement really is. So even with COVID, when everybody wasn't able to kind of go out as much and all of our numbers started to shrink down, people still really remembered that, hey, WEN is a great organization to volunteer for. And when things opened back up, they came right back in. And it also showed us how valuable our partnerships are. So we work with so many different agencies, organizations, and individuals, and everybody has brought something kind of new and different and better to the table. And it's just helping us to improve both our protocols and kind of our organization as a whole. As we're going through, it just makes everything just a little bit better with each person we add on to it. And all this really shows us that we have been doing a really great job with Stream Team, but there's still a lot of things that we can keep building on. So we can keep growing Stream Team in both our numbers and our reach and how many people we impact. And we'll just keep going on and do the same sort of work and keep improving it right on into the future. So now if you've got any questions, either about WEN, Stream Team, upcoming events, the data, anything, feel free. If you're on the Zoom, you can put that into the chat and we will answer them in here. If you're in person, you can raise a hand and we'll go ahead and give it a shot.
I have kind of a comment. Can we go back to the comparison between level 1, level 2, response, that one?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the differences in how our composition works here. That might explain some of the small differences.
Oh, if you want to come up here, Cassie. The microphone is right here. This is Cassie, our former communications coordinator. She's been a great member of WEN for quite a while now.
Sorry, I can't help not taking control of conversation. So as someone who has done a lot of this collection and done a lot of the identification in the field, and now does some of the basic identification at Rithron, one of the things that stands out to me is that at Rithron we have microscopes. And so we can see all of the much smaller little bugs. And a lot of the caddisflies and other taxa that we find in a lot of stream samples are just way tinier than the mayflies and stoneflies. So it's a lot harder to see those in the field. It's a lot easier to miss them, or it's just harder to tell what they are when they're that little. So kind of supporting this idea that WEN's doing a really great job between level 1 and level 2 being consistent is that a lot of the difference in the percentage of mayflies is probably due to that bump in those smaller species in the caddisfly category. And then the difference between different groups in the field, a lot of that's just random chance. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and it's something really neat. If you look at the other category there, I was really trying to figure out which taxa would be interesting to put on here. And so the groups found 5 different taxa, but when we sent the bugs to Rithron, they found 11 different taxa than we did. And so a lot of those were the really itty bitty ones, like Cassie was saying. There's things like water mites, which are
So small, even under the microscope.
they're tiny. They're like the head of a pin. And I think they are bright red, but they're also
Sometimes
much
they're bright
impossible.
red. The easy ones are bright red. There's also brown ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we've been wanting to do one of these sort of comparisons for quite a while now. We've got one in the works too that's a kind of on the data side still. We did the same sort of thing with our cross sections, looking at our cross sections and TU's cross sections. But bugs are, for some reason, a lot easier to compare numbers on than cross sections, which shouldn't be the case, I would think, but apparently it is. Yeah, so keep tuned for that in the hopefully near future. I'll do one of those comparisons as well. Sweet.
Any other comments, questions?
So what are the plans for this summer?
Yeah, so the plans for this summer, it's looking like water levels are going to be a lot lower than they've been. And so we've had a lot more opportunities that are going to be able to kind of open up. But so far, if you want to go back to like upcoming events, so we'll have our stream team start up in the fall like normal. We have our, and I think it's the second to last week of August, we have our first stream team training, and then we hop right back into stream team, both level 1 and level 2, kind of going into the fall there until the snow flies. And another thing that we've been working on is our groundwater monitoring. So there's a set of 15 groundwater monitoring wells in Greeno Park, and they've stayed closed a lot more during COVID, but we've been doing a big push to kind of get back out there, do a lot of the monitoring in those wells. And so we actually went out with a group, I think it was last week, and we did some of the surveying for that. And we had to track down all of these wells because they got buried in like leaves and everything like that from over the winter. And we'll be going out every month or maybe twice a month to do some of the like monitoring on those wells there. And so because normally you get high flow in the like spring/summer, groundwater keeps us above the water level. And so we'll be able to be out there, but without being in the like fast water of the Rattlesnake. Yeah, and we're also taking out our backcountry stream corps first and second week of August, I believe. And so they'll be doing that large wooded debris again. And then we'll do our level 2, our adult large wooded debris kind of further into the fall there.
Do a reminder of this, that they can visit our website or email us for that report to get more information.
Oh yeah, so if you would like a copy of that report, UC Davis has their manual up and ready to go. It is on their website and also will be kind of linked on ours as well. It's just an interesting read to just kind of thumb through as well. See a lot of references to like when, what sort of data we collect, how we go about a lot of our work. And then if you'd like a copy of that report on the left, that's our big report for working with Trout Unlimited. It combines all that data from all of these different organizations into one really beautiful report, if I might say so.
Question from Chris.
Yeah, so Chris is asking on the Zoom here. That's Chris Jadala. He's one of our partners from UC Davis that we mentioned earlier. He actually came out with us as well with our backcountry stream corps. And so it was a great help working with our high schoolers. We had a real fun time there. And Chris is asking, were any of these data or findings particularly surprising to you all? And so, Chris, I think for the most part, not really. We were hoping for no change, and that's really what we saw. And so in a lot of like different science publications, a lot of people look at science, and when they see things staying the same, straight across the board, no changes, nothing, they think, oh, you didn't really find anything, and move along. But that's what we really wanted to see in this whole project, was that there were no changes. And so that was really great to see. It's what we expected, what we hoped for, but it was great to have that kind of proven in our data. But I think the one kind of surprising thing, at least for me, was looking at the comparison between the level 1 and the level 2. When I first started with WEN, I saw like a couple of these other protocols like floating around, and I kept thinking how interesting it would be to do one of those comparisons. And so finally getting to see what that data looks like, get our hands on it, and really prove that all of our data collection is kind of at the same level, no matter what we call it. That was a really nice, like, I wouldn't say surprising for me, but it was just a nice thing to see.
Is that the Rattlesnake Reservoir on the manual?
Yeah, so if you look at this, yeah, so there's a couple of great photos floating around. One on the cover of the report. So that on the left there, so on the left-hand report, rattlesnake removal report, the left picture is the before and the right picture is the after. So they took out all that concrete, mostly concrete. They left a nice bit for the like historical preservation. And they took out the like buildings, the fish ladder, all that sort of stuff, moved the channel, redug the channel, added a lot more like sinuosity, a lot more curves to it rather than the nice like straight that it used to be. And for some reason you can't really see these in a lot of places. I don't know why they're not more widely shared, but they're really some great before and after. Like this is what this removal looked like. This is what this whole project was for. So yeah.
And yes, the one on the UC Davis is the rattlesnake, the old reservoir and dam. Thank you, Stephie. That was great. I just want to make a quick comment about Brooke Bauer, our communications coordinator, has been doing some really awesome interviews with some of our volunteers that we've had over the years, level 1 and level 2. We've gotten some great feedback, some things to do better, some things that have been really working, some things that have surprised us that are working. And so Brooke actually has been putting that together, and there is a page on our website that has some quotes and testimonies from some of our volunteers. And so you should check that out. There's also some really great blog postings that we've been getting pretty regularly from volunteers as well, talking about their experiences on the stream team. So if you're a volunteer and you're in the Zoom room and you haven't talked to Brooke, I encourage you to talk to Brooke, or if you're in the room and you haven't talked to Brooke, she would love to talk to you about your experiences with stream team. Let's see, make sure we don't have another question here. No, that's it. Any more comments, questions before we adjourn this presentation? All right. Thank you, everybody, for participating and coming in the Zoom world and in person. If you're in person, we still have some tea and chocolate. Sorry, folks, if you're in Zoom, you don't get any Easter candy. But stay tuned, visit our website for more information, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and keep a lookout for the awesome newsletters that Brooke is putting out bi-weekly.